I can't see him, but guys, before we start, I want to just ask the Honourable Mark Latham to come up on stage. He's come out to be with the people of New South Wales. Now, as you know, Mark has been on this journey with us from the very beginning about ending the mandates, not just for teachers, but for everyone. He came out 3 weeks ago in the mini cyclone. He's the only one that came out from that building. Now, we expect that perhaps one or two more will join us later on. But before we start, Mark's got to go back for a meeting at 11:30, so I've asked him to come up and to address the people of New South Wales. So let's put our hands together for Mark Latham.
Thanks, Mac. Thank you very much, Mac, and to the other organisers, and thank you to everyone who's here today. I very much admire your resilience and determination, because so many people have been treated very badly through this process, and at the end of the day, unnecessarily. Because the ultimate question now, 6 months into these mandates, is have they stopped the spread of COVID? The answer is no. Have they made workplaces safer? The answer is no. And the government now is at the point, as stubborn as a mule, of just ignoring the evidence time after time. In fact, the government policy last year was to lock everyone in their homes, doing immense damage to young people in particular, to say if you go and get your double jab, you'll have your freedom, and we'll pretty well get rid of COVID. What happened? They went to tens of thousands of cases every day. They also said that this was essential in terms of the fatality and the situation in our hospitals. We then find out this year the people who died with COVID, over 70% of them have been fully vaccinated, which is contrary to what the government expectation was and the community expectation, which would have been about 20%. So once you start looking at the evidence and some of the silly decisions that remain in place, there's a very strong argument to say for the teachers, the police, the AMBOs, the firefighters, the emergency services, lift the mandates and get people back to work. And not just in essential services. I mean, you only have to look at the situation with the floods in northern New South Wales, also in Sydney, the poor residents of Lismore, to realise that the mandates there minimise the number of paid staff and volunteers who could go and help. And I mean, when people are drowning, when their whole possessions, their life possessions are floating down the floodway and they're sitting on their roof, is that really the thing to be worried about, rather than maximising the number of volunteers and paid staff who could go in and save lives and save homes and save possessions? So none of that has made any sense. There's been some wacky decisions. One of the wackiest was for emergency services in New South Wales to open up the whole mandate question, and then it spread. I mean, the government at one time said the beach is the safest place to be from COVID. The beach, outdoors, beautiful sea breeze, the beach. And then you had some lunatics from Surf Lifesaving New South Wales who said, oh, no, the beach must be unsafe. They imposed the mandates on the beach. And children of 14 and 15 who'd been training for their nippers and their state final in competition weren't allowed to go and compete because they weren't fully vaccinated. Now, some of this just defies belief, some of it defies logic, some of it defies sanity. So the fact that you're here today, interested in the evidence, interested in the data, is a tribute to you, and the fight goes on. I do a lot of work with my office as the chair of the Education Committee, where I can tell you the staff shortages are paramount, and a big part of it has meant that the Education Department has used the public health order with a compliant, useless trade union to forget about every single decent industrial relations standard and practice. This has been like a reign of tyranny over teachers who dedicated their professional life to looking after students, looking after the next generation. And I can assure you, we will make the truth come out, because at the last estimates they said, oh, we've only sacked 130 full-time permanent teachers. I can tell you for sure they have stood down or sacked 7,000 teachers in New South Wales. And what this means, on top of all the other problems in the profession and the hopeless management of Education Minister Sarah Mitchell, what it means is that some schools now are closing early in the day. They close an hour or two early because they just haven't got the teachers. Some schools make the kids sit in the playground because they've got no teachers. Some schools are making the children just read books in a maths or science class because they haven't got the teachers. And then they scramble to get some teachers out of the education department. We've now found out, in terms of learning improvement, trying to turn around the steady slide downwards in New South Wales school results, they haven't got enough staff to do the learning improvement program. So this has been a disaster for young people in New South Wales, the next generation who deserve a better, full-time, guaranteed education in our state. So that's the work we do, but we've also tried to help the firefighters, the AMBOs, the paramedics, the nurses, the emergency services, anyone who's been affected by this. And there comes a time when the government just needs to look at the evidence and say enough is enough. This is not working the way we promised. We've got to lift these mandates and get people back to work and get New South Wales functioning again at full capacity. And while I'm the only member of the 135 in the State Parliament who'll be out here speaking today, I can say to you it only takes a couple of us to try and drill into the truth. And for most of us, this really is a truth-outing exercise because there's been so many things where the public's been misled. I'll just give you one example that we've pursued in the Parliament here, and that is the practice up till January where the New South Wales Health Department was saying if you go back 28 days when someone had COVID and they recovered, and then say recently they broke their arm and they had to go into hospital, that was counted as a COVID hospitalisation number, which just beggars belief. And I've asked Brad Hazzard and his acting minister in the upper house about this, and she said, oh, we found out under Omicron that there were people coming into hospital who previously had COVID and they reduced the 28 days to 14. But they must think we came down in the last shower, because everyone knows that last year there would have been a whole stack of people who had Delta and got over it and then came into the hospital 3 weeks later, and they shouldn't have been counted as a hospitalisation number. Now, why is Hazzard doing this? Why have the hospitalisation numbers been bodged? To try and scare people further into the vaccination program. And what's happened in New South Wales now, thankfully, is that the public has seen through it. People aren't silly, people are awake up to what's going on, and the enthusiasm for the third jab, of course, has waned, and he's running all sorts of new information or misinformation exercises to try and pump up those numbers. So stick with the truth, stick with the evidence, stick with the common sense of saying we need essential workers in particular, our teachers, anyone who serves the public, to be working for New South Wales rather than going down to Centrelink and having their life destroyed. Many people have been treated atrociously. Today is a cross-section of all the harm that's been caused in New South Wales. So let's keep up the fight, let's keep up the enthusiasm, and let's keep moving towards a better New South Wales with none of these dreadful mandates. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Mark, just one thing. I want you to, if you can just give a message to Tom Perrottet and Brad Hazzard, because I'd rather you were outside when they heard this, because we don't want this to apply while you're inside, because you're one of the good guys. But there's a message from the New South Wales people. It's 3 words. You know it's my favourite. 1, 2, 3. Sack them all! 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 Beautiful. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Thank you. Let's hear it from Mark Latham. Thank you. All right.